Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It is Sunday. It's 12 o'clock. It's time for a Q&A. Now, this is where I take all of the questions that you've asked over the course of the week, and I try to answer them to the best of my ability. And first of all, I want to say thank you so much. I always say this at the end of the week. Thank you so much. If you've checked out one video on Magic TV, or two videos, or three videos, I really appreciate it. I put a lot of time and effort into doing this, and the fact that you tune in and watch anything at all really makes it worthwhile, so thank you. Now, if you've never seen a Q&A before, I'm going to answer a whole bunch of questions that have come in this week. Couple of things about the Q&A. First of all, I tend to answer these questions on like a Wednesday or a Tuesday. So if you want to guarantee to get your questions in, get them in on a Wednesday or a Tuesday. Today's Tuesday, for example. And if I miss them, just ask them again down below, and I'll get to them the following week. I do occasionally miss questions, especially if they're not on the Q&A thread, in which case I apologize. Finally, you're getting my raw, unfiltered opinion. I don't look at these questions beforehand and make notes. I'm literally reading them and giving you an off-the-cuff answer. If I think there's a question that would deserve a longer video, I will get to that at some point down the line. But with all that being said, we got some great questions this week. So I'm going to get straight into it. So here we go to this week's Q&A. So the first question is from Phil Wasson66. And Phil says, hi Craig. Hey Phil. Could you do a best 5 tricks of either Brother John Hammond or Ed Marlowe? You must be psychic. I'm actually doing a best 5 tricks of Brother John Hammond at the moment. But I'm actually going to be performing them, so it's going to be for magic stuff. So I'm going to be performing my 5 favorite tricks and then talking about them and talking why Brother John Hammond is so awesome. So that's going to be coming soon. I'm sure I can get to Ed Marlowe. I was always more of a Vernon guy than a Marlowe guy. I've got all of Marlowe's books and so on and so forth, but I've always gravitated more towards Vernon than Marlowe, but I could definitely put together a Marlowe video as well. So that's something that I'll do down the line. The next question is from Matthew Heine, I think it is. And Matthew says, hi Craig, just wondering if there's a way to message you privately. Absolutely. A couple of ways to get hold of me. The first is by email, craig@magictv.org. Now, I don't always see my emails because I get hundreds of emails. So the next option is to email either admin@thenetrix.com. Or if you don't email admin at the Netrix, email info@magictv.org. Either of those will go through to my admin team and they'll bring them to my attention. So yeah, that's normally the best ways to get in touch with me. So there you go. Okay, so the next question is from Card Trick Academy, who says, hi Craig, love your videos, thanks very much. What's the best way, in your opinion, to start a parlour show you're doing to your family who has seen magic before? I'm guessing if it's your family, they've seen your magic before. And I'm guessing it's kind of, maybe people that you don't live with, like if you were living with somebody and you were going to do a magic show for them, that might be a little bit weird. So I'm guessing it's kind of like you're getting a whole bunch of people together, a family gathering, and you want to do a show to them, but they've seen you perform bits and pieces before. It kind of depends. You're asking, how do you open it? How do you start the parlour show? And I kind of really just think it depends on what the content of the parlour show is. So are you going to be doing stuff in there that you haven't done before for your family? Are they going to be seeing something different to what you've seen before? In which case, you can actually build that into your opening and say, hey, welcome to the show. You all know me. My name's Craig, and you know that I love magic. Now, over the course of the last, years and months and, decades, I've been performing magic for you. But I've put together this show specifically for you guys, and you're going to be seeing things that you've never seen before and things that you will never see again. I promise you that you're going to see something in this show that's going to blow your mind, and it starts with one of these, and then you bring your first prop out and you say, hey, it starts with one of these, and you're straight into it. You're kind of acknowledging that way that they've seen your magic before, but they're going to see something different. Now, if you're doing the same stuff, I can't imagine you are, but if you're doing the same stuff they've seen a million times before, you haven't got as interesting a hook, but you could still say, hey, thanks very much for coming out and watching the show. I've put this together specifically for you. There's a chance that some of you have seen the material that you're going to see in this show before, but my hope is that I've got some wrinkles on it, some differences on it, that kind of really takes you by surprise. So let's get into it. I think that's probably the best way to do it. It's always hard performing magic to your family, especially if you're doing it as a kind of a structured sit-down thing, because You know, when you're performing to strangers, you're this enigma, you're the magician. Oh, has he got really magic powers? But your family know that's not the case. So it's always a little bit awkward. So I would attempt, if you're putting a parlour show together for your family, to maybe put something unique in there so you can actually say at the beginning, you're going to see something very, very different. Okay, I got one more question from the Card Trick Academy that says, is the Matt-umentary season 2 coming soon? And the answer is, it's coming. It's absolutely coming. The reason that we've held off is because I've got a very busy summer. Ryland's performing at the House of Secrets quite a lot and rehearsing for the tour with Killian. I'm heading over to Magic Live and I'm filming some stuff with Penguin. I'm filming some stuff with Murphys, and you know, I'm all over the place over the summer. So we wanted to kind of skip the summer and then start it kind of maybe September, October, and run it through to Blackpool, because I've got a very specific thing in mind that I want to do with the Matt-umentary season 2. I've got a very specific thing in mind, and I've got actually the episodes planned out, and I'd like to see it culminate at the Blackpool Magic Convention, because I've got an idea that I need to get green lit first. But if that idea comes to fruition, I think that the whole idea of the reason the Matt-umentary season 1 worked so well is because Matt was going from Muggle to Magician, and he had this big finale to aim for, which was the show that we're putting on and him being involved in the show. And I think with season 2, we have to have something big for him to aim for. And so I'm kind of just putting that in place, and then I'll work out how many episodes that we need in order to get to that point, and it'll culminate at Blackpool. So I could see it maybe starting around September, maybe October, depending on how many episodes I need to actually plan this out. So it is coming. Matt's aware that it's coming, so keep watching. Okay, so the next question is from Carl Barmer, and Carl says, few questions. Do you see an issue if I can get the same reaction with low skill sleights or ungimmicked self-working methods rather than complex sleights or expensive methods? Man, it's down to you. It's down to the individual. You know, I mean, I go out and I gig with Matt and I watch him perform, and he's doing self-working magic for the most part. He's throwing in a little bit of sleight of hand here and there, but for the most part, he's doing a lot of self-working magic and mentalism. But the reactions that he gets are incredible because he's aware of his character and he's presenting it really well because of his acting background. So somebody like Matt proves that you don't need to do incredible sleight of hand. You don't need to do expensive gimmicks. You work out what your character is. You work out the type of magic or mentalism that you want to perform, and then you work out what the tricks are that fit within that character. And really, to be honest with you, it's down to the individual. It's really down to the individual in terms of what tricks they decide to perform as part of their set. Now, for me, my attitude is that I've always wanted to keep things simple. And by simple, I don't mean easy, by the way. I like to keep things as simple as possible. Now, what do I mean? Well, simple might be self-working. Simple might be using a gimmick. So, for example, if I'm doing a coins across, the best way to do it is to use a gimmick. Way more advantageous using a gimmick than using sleight of hand. But if I want to make a card come to the top of the pack, for example, the simplest method of doing that is with a pass. So again, it very much depends on the situation in which I'm performing in, the type of magic that I'm doing, as to what I'm going to do, but I try to keep it as simple as possible. So no, there's no problem at all. You can go out and make a career for yourself without buying a single expensive gimmick. You can make a career for yourself out of not doing sleight of hand. My question is, not my question, but my thing is, we should always try to better ourselves. We should always try and improve ourselves. We should always try and improve our magic. And I think that learning sleight of hand and learning more skillful type of techniques really kind of opens up possibilities for you as a performer. So, you know, right now I know that Matt would love to be doing more with billets, but he doesn't because he doesn't know how to switch a billet. So that's something he's learning how to do. But if he already had that ability, he'd be able to jump straight into billet work, right? So the more sleights that you learn, the more skills that you learn, the more doors that are open for you, and the more creative you can allow yourself to be. I know Matt's long-term goal is to create a magic trick. Well, if you want to create a magic trick, knowing as many skills and principles as possible is best, because then when you approach a problem, you've got a pool of knowledge to work from instead of one thing. If your pool of knowledge is limited, and if you have the best idea in the world, you might not be able to work out how to get there. Whilst if you have a lot of techniques under your belt, a lot of principles, you've got a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, experience, you can probably think of 3 or 4 different ways of going and approaching the same problem. So yeah, that's basically a long-winded way of saying there's no problem at all. It's totally up to you as a performer, the type of magic that you do. As long as your audiences are having a good time, that's really all that's important. Okay, so the next question again is from Carl Barmer, who says, how do you decide on close-up magic you're going to perform? I'm doing a large event in September for a room of big round tables of 10 to 12 people per table. I thought a routine that is angle proof, but also gets as much interaction as possible. Yeah, you know, what you're describing there is what we call banquet situation. And that's my bugbear in magic. I see so many magicians, normally those that have got a limited experience, that go and perform banquet, and you see them walk over to the table and they perform for 2 or 3 people on the table and they don't perform to the whole table. My attitude is, if you're booked for that sort of event, you should be really performing to the whole table. Now, a great piece of advice that David Penn gave me many, many years ago was, when you walk over to the table, look for a place where you're going to stand that's out the way of the serving staff and everything, and just look to the person at the left and the right and say, could you move slightly that way? Could you move slightly that way? That way everyone can see what I'm about to do. And it's not rude, because you're saying to them, hey, I want everybody here to see what I'm about to do. But it then gives you the space in which to perform and operate. Now, when you're performing in a banquet situation, you really need to perform to the whole table, not just to 1 or 2 people, which means that you have to vocally project. So it kind of needs to be, hey, my name's Craig. I heard this is the fun table. Is that right? Oh, I'm so glad I found you. Now, my name's Craig. Like I say, I'm the magician here. It's my job to come in and perform magic for you. You right there, sir. You look very excited. That normally tends to be my opener, and I'm looking around at everybody. I'm smiling. I'm grabbing their attention. I'm telling a little joke. I'm getting them invested in what I'm going to do. Then the important thing is the magic has to be something that makes everybody interact with what you're doing. Because if you're doing something and they're not interacting with you, or they're not following along with you, they're going to switch off, right? And you've only got one chance to grab them and grab their attention. So there's a few different ways of doing that. Like tricks like multiple selection are brilliant, because every single person is picking a card. Tricks like fiber optics are great, because there's lots of moments where you can hand things to people or get people to do stuff. And it's also not a card trick, which makes it kind of different and unique. You can even do the sort of magic that you'd see somebody do in cabaret, you know, like the Woody Aragon thing, like Love Ritual and stuff like that. That's something that you can do on a banquet table. It's totally up to you, but it needs to be something that plays up here, not down on the table. So you don't want to do stuff that's down there that people on the other side of the table can't see, especially if there's a big thing in the middle that's obscuring their view. So it has to be something that everybody can see. So it's a good idea to keep it up here, but it also has to be something that really kind of involves everybody. And if it's not a trick that involves everybody, try and work out how you can get everybody involved. So for example, let's say I was saying, hey, can you name a card for me? And they say 7 of diamonds. You could then say to the person over there, they said the 7 of diamonds. Now, would you have named the 7 of diamonds? So what card would you name? 6 of clubs. Exactly. You see, that card is unique to you. No one could have known. So I'm involving other people on the table, even though I'm really performing to just one person. It doesn't really matter so much about angles, really. I mean, obviously, you've got people to your extreme left and right, so you need to be aware of angles, but really, that's not my biggest concern when I'm doing banquet. My biggest concern is to make sure that the magic that I'm performing is something that everyone can see. One that I've done recently in banquet, is the Jedi book test. That works really well in a banquet situation, because I can get lots of people to think of words. I can tell them the word they're thinking of, and then I can bring it back, and I can do the Pegasus page. So yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's cool. I really enjoy doing it. But yeah, that's the most important thing. Make sure everybody on the table can see what you're doing. One last question from Carl Barmer, who says, was Ryland happy with how you put his close-up case back together? No, he was really annoyed. He took it to a gig, and apparently I put everything back in the wrong place, and it took him 20 minutes at the gig putting it back in the right place. So that's the last time I'm allowed to go into his close-up case, but, you know, that's what it is. Okay, so the next question is from, oh my gosh, D1G1M1, who says, hi, Craig, thanks for all the great videos. You're more than welcome. I try to watch everything. Good luck. I know you love coin magic and have endless routines and gimmicks, but do you still love the classic Scotch and Soda? I have a 30-year-old set that still amazes people. Also love doing split focus from Greg Wilson. Live in Australia, and it's hard to get new coin sets before they sell out. Scotch and Soda, I love. Always have done. I think that Scotch and Soda is an amazing trick, and I've actually considered at some point doing the hows and whys of Scotch and Soda or coin unique or something like that. It's something that I really need to kind of consider doing. One of my favourite routines for Scotch and Soda is to do a coin and a watch. So what I do is I have a purse, and inside the purse I have the Scotch and Soda open. Right, so let's say it's a $half with a centavo. I have the $half and I have the centavo on the other side of the $half, so it's not going to lock in place. And then I throw one more coin in, like a Chinese coin, so they're inside there. And I also have the other centavo loose in my pocket. So when I want to do this trick, I look for somebody with a watch on that's perfect for the coin and the watch. And I say, hey, can you help me for me, please? And they'll say, yeah. And I say, brilliant. Hold your hand out. I go into my pocket. I bring out the purse. And as I bring their hand forward, I load the centavo underneath their watch right at the very beginning. I bring the purse out, I open it up, and I put the 3 coins onto their hand. I say, that's a $half, that's a centavo, that's a Chinese coin. I then sort of stack them up and, you know, like overlap them in their hand, and I tell them to close their hand. And make a tight fist. So they are, and that centavo's underneath there. The centavo's now locked inside the $half. So now I'm going to do some simple equivoke with somebody else. I say, do me a favor, with your right hand, reach in and take out one of the coins. Which coin have you taken out? Now, if they take out the centavo, I go, brilliant. And I get them to open up their hand, and the other 2 coins have gone in their hand. If they take out the $half, for example, I say, great. And with your other hand, take out another coin. And if they take out the Chinese coin, I go, brilliant. That leaves us with the centavo, right? So that was your choice. And if they take out, say, the $half and the centavo, I say, brilliant, hand me one. If they hand me the centavo, I go, brilliant, the centavo. If they hand me the $half, I say, what does that leave you with the centavo? So I use some very simple equivoke to get down to the centavo. And I say, right, you've got that centavo there. The other 2 coins are here. Imagination turns into reality like this. And then I get them to open up their hand. And inside their hand, now they've got 2 coins. They've got the $half and they've got the Chinese coin. The centavo's gone, which is an incredible moment because they made all the choices right there. They did absolutely everything. And that centavo's gone. And then I say, well, you know, let's see if we can make it come back. There's nothing in your hand. Make a fist. And I say, when I snap my fingers, it's going to come back. Boom. Open up your hand, and it's obviously not come back. And I say, it's there. Do you believe me? And they say, no. And I say, no. You know why they don't believe me? They don't believe me because they haven't looked under their watch yet. And the time misdirection between when I loaded the centavo under there, which was right at the very beginning of the routine, and when the revelation of the centavo's there is such a strong thing that they just completely freak out. So that's kind of my favorite routine with a Scotch and Soda. So try that. It's really fun. And it's a great way to do coin under watch because you're not having to load it under on heat. A lot of the time when you do a coin under watch, you're vanishing the coin, you're bringing the hand over here, you're loading the coin under the watch, and it's happening like right in the middle of the routine. But with the way this is done, it's getting loaded under before you even do anything. So yeah, that's something you can try. But if you want to see hows and whys of the Scotch and Soda, let me know. I've got a ton of routines with it. Okay, so the next question is Andy Put 94, who says, hi Craig, I have a question about the blister effect. What's your top 3 to 5 blister effects? And what are the pros and cons about each version? And which one is the most practical surrounded by an audience? I know of Branded, Method 1 and Scar Tissue, but I think you might know other versions. Thanks in advance. Keep up the good work. You rock. Yes, I do know quite a lot of versions. And this is going to be a video. This is an example of what I said earlier on, which is if I see something that I really like that I couldn't do justice to in like a 5-minute chat here on the Q&A, I'll turn it into a video. That's the perfect question for a video. So bear with me, give me a couple of weeks and I'll turn that into a full, 5 blister effects you've not seen before or something like that. So look out for that, and thank you very much for the idea. Okay, so the next question is from Simon Croft 2677. Hey Simon, hope you're well. Question for you, Craig. What's your advice for entertaining children with autism as a party? Thanks. I'm guessing you mean a kids magic show, a birthday party or something like that. What's the advice for entertaining children with autism? Well, really, when you're doing a show, you don't want to change it too much. You don't want to change it too much because you're going to have a set show and they're going to enjoy the show regardless. I mean, They just are. The one piece of advice I was given very early on, which is fantastic, is if you have a child, children with autism, and I'm not an expert with autism and any stretch of the imagination, but one thing that I was told very early on is that children with autism, they take things very literally. So, for example, if you say to a child, pull your socks up, you know, to another child, that might mean try harder. But to a autistic child, that they might take that as, hey, they want me to actually pull the socks up. So bear that in mind, that they take a lot of things that are said literally. So if you say, hey guys, I want you to shout so loud that your head falls off, you know, you want to be careful with that, especially if they're younger. That was a big piece of advice that was given to me by a teacher that taught autistic children when I asked them for advice very earlier on. The big piece of advice I can give you about entertaining at a party is to make sure that you're aware that the children at the party are autistic. So when you're booking it in for the clients, having your terms and conditions, you know, hey, if there are going to be any children at the party with special needs, if you could please just make me aware of that, that would be fantastic. Just so I can make sure that I've got everything prepped and I've got everything ready so that I'm prepared for that situation. I like to know ahead of time rather than just kind of getting to the party and not being aware of it. It's something that I like to be aware of. So the big piece of advice I can give you is when you're booking a party in, make sure that you've asked that question ahead of time. I think that's really important. But I'm not an expert at autism at any stretch of the imagination, as I say. I try to just run the party as I would normally, and I just try to be mindful of any situation that might be occurring. So, you know, unfortunately, I'm not an expert, but, you know, hopefully that will help with my very limited knowledge on the subject. Okay, so the next question is the magic of Seth. The magic of Seth says, if you had to put together a Sleight-free magic set, what would you perform? I sprained my wrist 2 days before a gig, and sleights were impossible. I ended up doing a mentalism heavy set, but I'd like to know more options if I'm ever faced with that again. A Sleight-free magic set, what would I do? Wow, great question. Well, I'd probably do... A lot of app-based magic requires no sleight of hand at all. So I'd probably lean on the tech stuff. I'd probably do a variety of different presentations of Digital Force Bag, Toxic Plus, Maxim, David Jonathan's Vox, Cognito, are all perfect examples of, did I say Toxic Plus? Yeah, I think I did. The one where you're making the numbers jump from one calculator to the other. All of that sort of stuff I'd do, because those are tricks that you don't need any skill to do at all, so you can focus on presentation. So a lot of the app-based magic is magic that would work really well. The challenge you have, and I think that you are aware of this because you said you ended up doing a mentalism heavy set. The challenge is when you're eliminating sleight of hand completely, a lot of the visual elements of magic are eliminated as well. There's less visual elements of magic if you're removing the sleight of hand completely. There are a few things. So, for example, stolen cards by Leonard Green. If you have that set up so that the end of the trick is a blank deck kicker, that's a really cool thing to do. They're not going to expect that deck turning blank. So that kind of thing works really well. But I think you have no choice but to lean on the mentalism side of things. I really think that that's something you have to do, because a lot of mentalism can be done in a very non-slight way. I don't know how affected your wrist would be, but I think you could probably pull off something like hopping halves, because that is just so simple. The traditional hopping halves or confusing coins, all you're doing is taking off shells and putting them into your pocket. So I think you'd probably be okay with that. But yeah, I think I'd lean onto the mentalism stuff, and I'm trying to make it as visual as I can, and do a lot of app-based magic. Okay, so the next question is the Udon Pot. Okay, who says, I have a question. Any recommendations for tricks I can pull out of a wallet and perform? Specifically something you could perform for various friends around a dinner table as a second or third effect when they're already watching closely. So something that doesn't need a setup, which can be examined at the end because friends can get grabby with props. B-Wave is almost there, but something I have to smooth past when they want to examine the cards. And my favorite billet effect uses dummy billets with something pre-written so it doesn't fit the bill. Any ideas? An ESP matchup routine would be a really great shout. So there's a new ESP matchup routine which me and Ryland have done the review show for. I don't know if it's aired yet, called Mono, which is like an ESP matchup using Uno cards instead of ESP cards. And they're gimmicked Uno cards that are marked that allows you to do an ESP matchup routine. And Ryland has that as part of his everyday calorie in his wallet. In fact, we were out at dinner last night and he did it last night to friends at dinner. And, you know, that's great because you just pull them out your wallet and you say, hey, I've got a few Uno cards in here. Do anybody here play Uno? Well, let me show you something with these, and you're into it. Another thing that works quite well that fits inside a wallet is a Stroop test by David Jonathan and Nicholas Mavresis, which is another one that's in Ryland's everyday carry, actually, ironically. So Stroop test, the whole idea of Stroop test is that you just have 11 cards, you can bring them out, you can have them examined at the end. They can be, depending on which way they go, one card might not be able to be examined 50% of the time, but if that happens, the focus isn't on that card, so it's pretty much examinable. And that's a really great routine to do, and both of those fit the bill of routines that would work in a sort of a third or a fourth effect where you've got their attention and they're focusing a lot more clearly. Both of those would work really well. So both of those are ones that you can pull out of a wallet. I'm trying to think of others. There's loads, really. It's just thinking of them, isn't it? That's the problem. If you're wanting something that's a little bit more cerebral, you could go into a what do you call it? I've completely and totally lost the plot. It happens sometimes. I'm very, very sorry. You could do an oil and water. That's it, an oil and water. I was forgetting the name of the trick. So you could do an oil and water, and this is something that I used to do quite a lot. It's not a mentalism trick, but if you just put 4 red cards and 4 black cards in your wallet, and you just pull it out, you can go into any oil and water. But you know, just by taking, hey, I took these 8 cards out of a deck of cards because I want to show you something with them. Have you ever heard of oil and water? And you're into the routine. Now, no, not everybody loves oil and water. I think it's great, and at a dinner table, it works really, really well. With that being said, almost any packet trick will work fine. You know, there's a whole bunch of packet tricks. As long as it's a packet trick that ends cleanly, almost any packet trick will work. I've got a lottery prediction that's coming out through the 1914 at some point later on this year that's designed to fit inside a person's wallet. So you literally take it out your wallet and you're good to go. And that works fantastically. But obviously that's not out there, so that's not going to help you. So yeah, I mean, my favorite at the moment that I've seen that just fits inside a wallet that's like a little card trick is the Mono thing. So have a look at that because that's really good. So the next question, is from Magic Elliot. How you doing, buddy? Hope you're well. Who says, hi, Craig, is it just me or do you think that self-working coin tricks are generally pretty weak? Some self-working card tricks are awesome, as we all know, but it seems they aren't really rivaled by sleight-free coin magic. I'm a huge fan of Carl Fulv's self-working series, but in my opinion, self-working coin magic is one of the weaker titles. What do you think? Yeah, I agree with you. Thieves and Sheep are pretty cool. You know, the Gary Jones kind of adaptation of that he put on the ammo set. Both of those are pretty cool. But Thieves and Sheep is a self-working coin trick that's great. And there was one that me and Ryland reviewed ages ago, and I can't remember the name of it. And it involved predicting how many coins were face up and how many coins were face down. We did a review on it on one of the review shows. I can't remember it. Ryland still does it, but I don't. That was a self-working trick, and that was really good. But you know, you're right. There's very few tricks, coin tricks, that are self-working. I should do a video on that. The best self-working coin tricks of all time. I'd need to do some research into it because you are right. Self-working coin tricks just aren't as good self-working card tricks. I don't know why it is. If you know a good self-working coin trick, let me know in the comments down below. So the next question is from Andy Cooper, who says, regarding extra routines for the Orphic wallet, Roman Armstrong has a fantastic routine involving a photo ID and a card prediction. I'm sure I saw him perform it to Matt on one of your videos, Craig. I think I know what's going on there, but the thinking is genius. Do you know if Roman has made the routine available anywhere? I didn't say anything about that because I know that Roman hasn't published it, so I didn't want to bring it to everyone's attention. But yes, you are right, and it is on a video. It's on a 5x5. So people who are really into pricing can go and find that 5x5 and can go and watch that. But it was the one where Roman was performing a whole bunch of magic. Now, I think that it's amazing what he's done there, and it has a lot of applications outside of the routine that he uses it for, which is very personal to him. So yeah, but I do believe he's planning on doing something with it at some point soon, which is why I didn't highlight it. But yeah, it's an amazing idea. Roman is a genius. Like, just simply put, Roman Armstrong is a genius. Jonah Berg says, can you interview Spidey on your channel? I'd love to, man. I would love to. If anybody knows Spidey, tell him to reach out to me because I would love to interview him. He's on my bucket list of people to interview. I'm a big Spidey fan. A lot of the stuff that he brings out is amazing. I think he does great things on YouTube. He just does great things in general. And he's somebody I would absolutely love to interview. So if anybody knows him, tell him I want to interview him. Okay, so the next question is from Not Rapple, 7937, who says, hi Craig, love your videos. Very good, great content, brilliantly creative. Thank you. Do you know if there are cards available with suits in inverse colours, e.g. hearts printed black, spades printed red, etc.? Yes, there is a deck of cards like that. So David Regal bought out a colour-changing deck a few years ago, and it's still available. You can get it from all good magic dealers. It's a great colour-changing deck. The backs of the cards change from blue to red, but then the faces of the cards change as well. So the red cards become black and the black cards become red. It's basically inversed around, and with it you get a couple of gimmicks, but you also get a fully inverse printed deck to be able to do the routine, because everything's examinable at the end. So yes, go check that out, because that's the one to go for. It's brilliant. It's David Regal's color changing deck. So Magic Elliott has commented on my David Williamson video, where I did 5 routines by David Williamson, and said, you say you've never spoken to David Williamson. Didn't you interview him in Las Vegas with David Penn? I don't remember. I don't remember a lot of what happened on the Wizard product review, I'll be completely honest with you. It was a long time ago, man. It was like 15 years ago. I don't remember all of that. I can't even remember what I did last week half the time. Did I interview David Williamson? I don't remember. I know we did lots of interviews when we were over there, and we interviewed a ton of people. I remember Richard Sanders. I remember Mark Mason. I can't remember everyone I interviewed. I don't remember interviewing Williamson, but I could be wrong. If I did, I apologise. I've interviewed him and didn't even know it. So there you go, guys. That's another Q&A in the bag. Thank you once again for joining me right here on Magic TV. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Now, if you want to get a question into me, don't forget to leave it down below by Tuesday and Wednesday. You want to see more videos like this, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Don't forget the Netrix, www.thenetrix.com. You can go and get access immediately to hundreds of tricks, hundreds of sleights, theory, marketing advice, business advice. We've got everything. And now with the Discord server and everything that's going on in the Discord, my God, it's amazing. We've got a ton of stuff. So if you want to know more about the Netrix, go check out www.thenetrix.com. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you again soon. My name's Craig from Magic TV.